Hey there, Mary. Welcome. Welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're welcome. And I appreciate you making the time to talk with me today and share all your wisdom because I love talking about email marketing. It is totally my jam. And I love learning from other people. And I cannot wait to learn from you and to share your knowledge with everybody. But
Awesome. Let's
before
nerd
we
out.
I know, right? I love doing that. I love when I meet a fellow nerd. Before we totally nerd out, though, I want everybody to get to know you. So, Mary, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you created the Busy Bell?
Yeah, so I always hesitate where to start my story because I've had several different paths, and I was in a PhD program and I earned my PhD at one point, but I didn't go into academia. I ended up going into like whatever odd jobs I could find, and most of those odd jobs were with people I knew, right? Like from my networks, friends I had or people in my networks who owned their own businesses. And I kind of came in as a right hand to these folks and learned a lot about business through those experiences. So it had nothing to do with my education. All the years I spent in college, of course, there were skills I gained from that, right? But I ended up like helping people run their businesses as their right hand with, for, boots on the ground experience. I was in sales and marketing and operations for about 5 years. And then I got pregnant with my daughter, my first daughter. And while I was on maternity leave, I got demoted and I decided I wasn't going to
Oh,
go back to that job.
oh my God, that's terrible.
It
Absolutely. Who
felt
would do that?
it felt terrible at the time, but like it was for the best. I was not meant
Oh,
to be in a role like that. I was meant to be more of a leader and run my own thing. And
mm.
so I took time off after that and just stayed home with my daughter. I was very lucky to we we went from a healthy two income household to a healthy one income household, that I could still stay home with her. But then
Yes.
COVID hit and my husband's job came to a screeching halt. And then it was
Oh,
like, okay, now what do we do? Um, and so with all of the skills that I had developed, through different jobs that I had, and this passion I had for doing something of my own, I just started searching. There's got to be, I have so many skills and experience. There's got to be something I can do from home where I can, still take care of her. We're locked down at the time,
yeah.
right? Um, and I found that there was this whole world of internet marketing and people with online businesses and this whole digital economy. And that was very exciting to me. And I very quickly jumped in head first with no idea what it was going to lead to. And now here I am.
I love it. And I can relate because I also had no intention on going into my field, which is marketing. My degree's in psychology. This was
Oh yeah.
not on my agenda. And life threw some curveballs, and here I am. And what I realized, like you said, is that we were both meant to be where we are right now. But through the
Absolutely.
chaos, sometimes it's hard to see that. Like sometimes you're like, what am I supposed like, how did I get here? Right. And then we realize why we had to go through all that to get all the skill
Yes.
set to do what we're doing. Now, you work with high earning personal brands and coaches. So how did
Yep.
you what inspired you to take like that? What put you on that route?
I think, I mean, at first I never really wanted to niche down to a certain type of entrepreneur. But I found over the years that I was consistently drawn to the same type of person. And it's not that they have a specific niche or business, but it's people who are helping other people either with personal development or making money. Like those are my two favorite things
Yeah.
because it just aligns so well with my values. So if I look at all of my clients right now, they are all either helping people get healthier, helping people make money, or build wealth, or helping people with mindset and personal development. And so I didn't ever say, like, I'm going to niche down to these people, but it's who I attract by what I put out. And it's who
Mm,
just aligns very well with me. When I get on sales calls, I've had other people come on and I've just told them, like, I just don't think that this is a great fit. I can recommend somebody else, but like I can just tell I'm not going to be excited about it.
mm.
And that doesn't lead to, you got to be excited about the client work you're doing when you're doing client work, or else it's a job, right?
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
I don't want a job. I
Yes.
want, to be fun and use my creativity and passion. And so I feel like I have these skills that they don't have. And so I use those skills to amplify what they are able to do and who they're able to serve. And that just really excites me.
That's interesting because in the beginning, I was guilty of just taking anybody. And then I did get to a point
Same.
where like when they would respond back after I sent a proposal and they're like, "Yeah, let's do it." I was like, "No." Like,
Why did you say
no,
yes?
no, and there have been times literally that I've even priced it higher because I'm like, this is going to be a challenge. This is not like, wasn't what I wanted. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, okay, that wasn't high enough, right? Like, but the reality is, you could say no. And I think in the
Yeah,
beginning, you live more so. I did. I'll speak for myself. I lived in this world of scarcity, not abundance, and so I felt like I had to take anything that I wanted. And now, it's very different because now I am attracting the people that I really want to work with. And
absolutely.
that was hard for me to get to. And I don't know if that's easy or hard for everybody, but that was a challenge for me to get
Yeah.
to that point.
No, I think it's scary. And until you see, like for me, it was the same pattern over and over again. When I would say yes to a client I knew wasn't a good fit, it would end poorly.
Yeah.
Not, like broken relationships, but just like
Right.
we couldn't get the results I was hoping to get, or,
Oh,
just something. And I was like, so the more often I said no to those ill-fitting things, it got better for me, for my business,
yeah.
for my happiness. So it was like once I saw a few times that there's always more, it got easier to say no. And I don't just say no to ill-fitting clients, I say no to ill-fitting deal structures. I've had
Oh.
two prospects who would be like, they're both very much in my, if I do have a niche, like they're both very much in my niche of clients I serve, but
Right.
they both wanted to negotiate the deal and
Uh,
negotiate it in a way that just I know will not work because it's tied to their mindset.
yeah.
They want to make a deal where they don't pay me unless we get results. And that to me says you're afraid I'm not going to be able to do what I know I can do. And you are going to block me from being able to do it. So I will not take that deal.
Yeah. I
I
I
need your
understand that.
investment. I don't need you to believe in me. I need you to believe in you, in your offer, and just let me handle the email side.
Right.
But I can tell in those negotiations that it is that they are afraid they're not going to make enough money. And I can't, that's a no from me.
I agree. And I've made that decision too in the past. I've had people say that. And I really didn't think it out the way you just thought it out, but you nailed it. There is that fear. I always felt like when you're marketing for somebody, whether it is email marketing or, you know, any like running ads, it's really as a partnership. I need
Yes.
just as much from them as they need from me to give me the information, to be open and there has to be that partnership, especially in the beginning. Once you kind of get into that groove and you know their brand and you know their brand voice, then it flows a little bit easier. But when you feel like you're taking the SAT and it's a pass or fail, you know, You know what I mean? Like, when you feel that, it's like, I don't even wanna do it because now I feel like I'm not valued, like, you don't trust the quality that I provide, and that's why I'm out. Like,
Mhm.
but you're right, it is
Well,
fear.
and with email marketing too, it's like, okay, on a call, I can get a sense of where the low hanging fruit is, but I need to actually get in your system and see the back end and see the conversions and the numbers to really know what my plan and strategy is going to be. It's not the same for every client when they
Right.
onboard. Some clients,
Yeah.
there's one piece of low hanging fruit, some there's 10, right? And it's
Yeah.
like we have to be strategic in how we attack it. So
Yeah.
um, it's also tricky, you know, like I would say, yeah, there's just different ways to negotiate it, but I can tell when they are negotiating because they don't believe that this is going to work. And that's when I'm like, no, you're
You're
not
right.
my
You're
person.
so let's dig into why we're talking in an email,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, first off, I think we both agree having an email list is important. And there are people who are listening and maybe they don't have a list or maybe they're just starting out. But let's just say like they're at ground zero and they're just starting to build their email list. What are some key strategies they should focus on to make sure that they grow that list and sustainable, right? A sustainable list. We're not talking about go buy a bunch of emails and plug them in and weed out. Like what which I yeah, which
No,
I know
I
you're
don't.
not for anyhow.
Not a
But
fan.
because I get questions about that, right? So I want to just clarify that is not it. But
Yeah.
when they're looking for fast growth, but something, and I'm adding sustainable because that one is not sustainable.
Yes.
What are some things that they should do?
Well, there's a couple different ways you can get people onto your list, right? You can offer them something free, like, some kind of lead magnet, a freebie to get them on the list just so that you can start nurturing them, sharing some value, and then eventually make a sale. Or you can get buyers onto your list right out of the gate, with a low ticket offer or something like that. And then you're building an email list of people who have already said yes to you once before. Maybe they're a
Yeah.
little bit easier to sell down the road too, right? And people always ask me, like, which is the better strategy? And I think, again, it's like one of those things that you have to test and see, you know? And if you're really strategic about the way that you maintain your list and segment and everything and use tags, you can literally watch freebies come in and track their journey and when they buy, how they buy, what they buy, how long it takes them to buy. And same thing with buyers, right? If they buy even a $7 thing from you, even a $1 thing from you,
Right.
and can we compare those two groups over time? And then you know which group really works for you. Does it work for you to attract freebie, um, you know, attract people with a freebie lead magnet and just nurture them, give them value, pour into them, and eventually they end up buying your higher ticket things? Or start slow, right? Like maybe you offer them something smaller and just keep scaling them up. Um, or do you find that those people don't ever really buy from you and it's really the people who pulled out their wallet to even get on your list that actually ever buy anything?
Hmm.
And so I don't think there's any um, downside to at least starting a list both ways. Start
Right.
attracting leads who get on the list for free and buyers at the same time. I'm very data driven. So like,
Yeah, me too.
yeah. So like, let's test it and see. And, I'm sure there are people who would say, well, buyers are always going to buy more. That's great. I like to test and see what works on my list because I
Yeah.
notice even across my clients, different things work on different lists. Um,
Yeah.
Everything is, from top of funnel all the way down to back end sales. There are these little nuances between um, entrepreneurs, offers, messaging, like all the different little pieces make a difference. And so you have to see what actually works in your ecosystem not necessarily what's working for, the gurus or what everybody's saying on social media, right? Like test it and
Yes.
see, test it and see.
Preach, preach,
Yeah.
preach. Sometimes I will have people, and I hear this, I hear it, right, in some of my groups where I'll teach about different aspects of marketing. And somebody, it's inevitable, will say, "Well, I still can't grow my list because, I did what you said. I did the freebie and I put something out there and nobody wants it." And I'm like,
Mm.
"Okay." Right? So my thing is, and please like dive in, but my thing is like, well, how are you promoting that freebie to get them to go there? Or maybe it's the wrong freebie. Like,
Exactly. Yeah,
so
like back up one step, where's our market research, right?
right.
And do you have any social proof that people in your sphere want the thing that
Mhm.
you're offering?
Right.
And that's one of the fun things. Once you do have a list, it's very easy to get answers to that because you ask your email list, right? You
Yes.
can you can literally ask your buyers what they want to buy from you and then
Yep.
go make that and sell it to them and sell it to everybody out there who's like them who just isn't on your list yet. So once you have the
So true.
list, it's really easy to do that market research, but you before you get there, you got to do a little digging first.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that because you're spot on. Now you
Yeah, I love
developed
that.
a really cool method, and it's called the RAD method. Can you tell us a little bit about this and how you've used it to help clients?
Yeah. So the RAD method is our team's approach to email list management. And I don't know how aware your audience is of what that means, but email list management is basically we are email marketers. We come in, we take ownership of your list. So we make sure that we maintain good hygiene. Um, we do proper segmentation. We write all your emails. We send all your emails, the whole shebang. You literally like share stories with us or promotions you want to run, and we handle it, right? So the RAD method is how we carry out email list management, and that's through reporting, automations, daily emails, and deliverability. Now, automations, daily emails, and deliverability are pretty common among all list managers. What really sets the busy bell apart is the reporting piece. We have an internal marketing report for each client. And right now we're capturing about 20 different elements of every single email we send. That
Wow.
spreadsheet will grow because we have a weekly team huddle. And every time we're on the huddle, like just in having conversations about what's working and what's not, and this niche, that niche, this client, that client, other ideas come out. And I'm like, ooh, we need to add that to the internal marketing report. Like that's another data point I want to see if it makes a
Yeah.
difference. So then we're writing your emails based on the data that we're getting back from your list. What do they respond to? Long emails, short emails, story emails, social proof emails. Like these 20 different elements we're looking
Mhm.
at to find the perfect formula of what resonates most with your audience. Um, Now, the deliverability piece is a little bit technical, but the reporting plays a huge role in the deliverability. I just shared
Okay.
a picture on my social media today of um, a client who we've been working with just a little over a month now. I looked at the past 120 days of their um, spam reports. So that's people who receive their email in the inbox and say, that is spam. Like they
Mhm.
actually mark it, not the Google gods deciding where your email lands.
Yeah.
These are user reported spam complaints. And the graph shows over the last 120 days, up, down, up, down, up, down, these spikes all over the place. And then you can very clearly see when my team takes over, it flatlines. We still get these
Yeah.
little spikes, but very low. And you can tell a huge difference between the spikes they were getting before us and then this flat line afterwards. Because how you segment, who you're talking to, what messaging you're sending, and everything that we're pulling from that internal marketing report is reducing their spam complaints. So, the deliverability piece is even affected by what we're doing with the reporting. That's why I love to nerd out on that,
Yeah.
especially having a, social science background and a statistics background. I love reading the numbers and telling a story with the numbers and making decisions based on what we're actually seeing.
And it's so important to make those decisions based on the numbers and not our emotions or what we think.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
mean, the data's right there. It's telling
Yeah.
us. It's giving us answers.
Thinking is for theory and testing, and then we actually test it and see, and then the numbers tell us what the answer is, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
I love it too because this whole reporting piece, because we work with a lot of coaches and movement makers, these personal brands, one of the fears that they have in turning over their email marketing to somebody like me is, oh my gosh, are you going to capture my voice? This and that.
Yes.
But with the reporting, we're not only do we have, methods for getting client voice, but your emails are not like anybody else's because it's data driven. We're
Mhm.
basing what we're writing and sending based on what your email list is telling us they like, so
Yeah.
it also doesn't become this copy paste to multiple clients and
Oh,
we're sending out templates for everybody, it's like custom tailored copy too.
yeah, and that's so important. You have to match the brand's voice, and I love that you do
Yeah.
that report. Now, you talked about as you're going through that report, right? And you're seeing the spam and the spike, and then when you guys took over, it kind of, plateaued a little bit where you're not seeing as many people hit the spam button. Um, and not just that, I'm sure you probably saw a change in open rates and people reading it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'll just share this too for
yeah,
that
go
client since
ahead.
I've been like really digging in their data lately.
Yeah, go.
We got more booked appointment. They do a book a call for high ticket, right? So we got more booked calls on their calendar in the month of January than they did in all of December or all of November.
Wow, that's
So like
awesome.
it works.
Yeah, that is so cool. That's so great to see too, as the person behind the scenes doing it for them. I know that's like
Yeah,
that's super, super cool.
very
So
exciting.
let's talk about sending those emails and increasing open rate, decreasing the spam. What do you do? What are some tips to make sure that they get not just delivered, but they get opened and not thrown into spam? What are you
Yeah.
doing?
So I mentioned that deliverability is a little bit technical. So there are some technical pieces that have to be set up right in order for your emails to even make it to the inbox, right? So we're looking at DNS records, authentication, domain reputation, like all of those things are important to set up properly and then track over time because they're some of those elements are not just set it and forget it. They're things that you have to watch over time and say, like for one of my clients who I'm consulting with, they had a spam spike one day. So we go back and look at the email that they sent that day and go, okay, they didn't like this. Why? Let's figure it out. Or what was the segment that we sent it to? And
Mm,
let's choose a different segment, right? So some of it is technical. Um, and then some of it is, and I don't know if you would put segmentation. I would say like DNS records and authentication and all of that is very technical. Then you have strategy, properly segmenting the list, having some kind of sunset policy where you don't email people who haven't engaged in the last, it varies for client, but maybe you don't go
mhm.
beyond 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. Um, how often you're sending, and whether you're sending consistently and the types of emails that you're sending, making sure that there's some variety there. Like all of that, I would put under strategy.
I gotcha.
And then you have the copy side, right? Then you have like the creative.
Yeah.
Um, and that's where we're split testing subject lines and preview text and, um, making sure that like if we've done these other things, then we're landing in the inbox. Now, how do we get people to open? How do we get people
Yeah.
to click? and just constantly trying to improve that and optimize all of that.
There's a lot more work than I think people realize when it comes to email marketing. I think that a lot of people have a misconception that, well, you're just going to send some emails to me or for
Yeah.
me to my
Yeah.
clients, right? Just write one email and send it out, and I can do that. But you're there's a lot more that goes into it, and you are creating those segments. Now,
Yeah.
I am all about automating, and I know that you are too. And
Hmm.
you had mentioned to me offline about 3 autoresponders that a business needs. And I love that. I loved when you, mentioned that because so many people. I don't know why I really don't know why people want to work more. Like, they
I don't either.
complain that they want free time, but they create more work for themselves. And when I talk to them about automating, create systems, automate, it's like, "Well," I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, you invest maybe a little extra time in the beginning, and then you're done for the most part, right? But they're like, "No, I'll just keep doing it my way." Okay, you could keep doing it your way, right? So, but let's talk about these, autoresponders,
Yeah.
and what first off, elaborate, like, why are they so effective?
So autoresponders are great for anything like, well, I wouldn't just say evergreen, but it's a way that you can set up like an email drip
Mhm.
that you write the emails, you set up the structure of how this is going to drip out. Maybe it's one email a day or one every 2 days, whatever the flow is. You can also get really fancy and say, if they didn't open the email, then send them a SMS message, right? Like you can get very fancy with it. Um, but you build the structure, you write the copy, you put all the copy into the structure, and then you turn it on. And then whenever people trigger that automation through a behavior, whatever you've selected, maybe it's when they um, sign up for your lead magnet. Maybe it's when they buy a new product. Maybe it's when we do some that are, if they reply to a certain email, we might set up
Yeah,
an autoresponder for that. Um, you hear a lot of times people set up cart abandonment autoresponders. That's a huge one to recoup lost sales.
yeah,
Um, then you don't have to be like the system watches for the behaviors and puts people in the automation and starts sending them the emails without you having to think about it. You don't even have to know. You don't
yeah,
even know who's, abandoning a cart or whatever. You don't have to think about that or check that. The system is already set up. They get the emails, you recoup some sales, some lost sales,
yeah.
um, without having to lift a finger after, like you said, the initial setup, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's
And
so much easier.
yeah. And I mentioned abandoned cart. So people come to your website, they put whatever in their shopping cart, and then they don't end up checking out. That's a great place to set up an autoresponder to recoup those lost sales. Um, but abandoned browse is another one that I like to use, especially on calendar booking links. So I'll set
Ah,
up an
nice.
automation where if they click the calendar link in an email, I give them, 10, 15 minutes, however long it usually takes them to actually book an appointment. Um, and if that time passes and they haven't scheduled an appointment, I send, 1, 2, 3 emails dripped out a certain way, strategically that say something like, hey, I thought you were going to book it. I was excited to talk to you. Do you have questions I can answer? Like this kind of thing.
I
And
love
then
that.
it can
I
get,
don't do that, and I love
yeah,
that.
yeah. Then it can get people talking, right? Because if they click a link in an email and then they don't take the action, you're not really sure why not. And
Right,
so if you can have this autoresponder set up that starts the conversation and invites them to share with you fears, objections, whatever, or they might just write back and say, "Oh, I just got distracted by my dog, I'll go do it now." Right? Like,
right, right.
but it's similar to an abandoned cart in that those are booked calls that you would have missed the sales on because they just didn't book and we don't know why, right? So follow up and find out, but you don't have to do it one person at a time. You can set up
I
an
love that.
autoresponder to do it for you.
I
Yeah.
love that. So I have to ask,
Yeah.
what's your favorite email platform for setting all this up?
Yeah. So my all-time favorite is Active Campaign, and it is still
Mhm.
my favorite. But we have a lot of clients jumping on Go High Level right now because they can get like everything they need. Um, their sales pages, they can post to social, like they can schedule social media posts, they can do their email marketing through there. It's their CRM. It's like an everything in one platform.
Yeah.
Um, and then they just have to have an ESP, an email service provider like Mailgun or SendLane are some of the popular ones that our clients are using on Go High Level. So I'm actually enjoying that platform now
Interesting.
that
I have to
I've
check it
learned
out.
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't checked that one out. Active Campaign
Yeah.
I'm familiar with, but
Yes. Active Campaign is still my favorite. They're all a little buggy, so
yeah.
like, um, and here's you didn't ask this, but this is something people
Yeah.
ask me a lot. And we're
Yeah.
talking about different ESPs. And I had a sales call with somebody the other day, and she was like, "Well, I'm on Kartra. Do I need to switch? Like, are you going to want to switch me to another platform?" And I was like, "No, all the platforms can basically do the same basic functions. Some of them are fancier, some of them have more bells and whistles. But, for someone like her, she has 48,000 contacts on her email list. Don't move your email list just because the person who's going to come in and manage it says, well, I know Active Campaign better. No. If an email marketer knows ESPs, they can get used to anyone out there. Unless there is a specific reason that you need to move platforms, I wouldn't move. If your
Yeah.
deliverability is good, if your engagement is good, just stay where you're at.
Yeah.
There has to be a specific reason to want to move, not just because
This
moving is not easy.
no.
It takes a
You
lot
have
of
to
work
set
and
everything back
strategy.
up. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And like
I've
you
moved
have to,
myself before
yeah,
because I'm always looking for something better. It's like, well, let me test this out, right? And see
yeah,
how I like it. And like
yeah,
I'll have two, like just to kind of test it, but I won't give it up here until I know for sure. I don't know because I don't have the time to do that, but I'm just so curious. Like I'm always looking for something better.
yeah. Yeah, there's some that I stay away from right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Um, like I don't want to, put any of them down, but like
I'm like, yeah,
MailChimp,
I'm like, I'm curious which one.
MailChimp is it's some of the other ESPs I've been on are just more regulated in terms
Yeah.
of who they allow on the platform, what they allow to be sent. And so when we're talking about deliverability and how important deliverability is for your emails to be seen and read and engaged with and lead to sales, you don't want to be on a platform where, any Joe Schmo can get on and send whatever they want and people are spamming and all of this.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not saying that like MailChimp is a home for spammers. I'm just saying you want to be on an ESP that has some guidelines and maybe
Right.
a little bit stricter.
Yeah.
Because that's good for you, right?
No, I get it. And in my opinion, you want to be somewhere that you're able to grow and you don't have to always reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And even though, like, I'll sometimes say you can start there, but you don't want to stay there. It's kind of like, using a free version, knowing that at some point you're going to go and you're going to have to use the premium, pay for premium. That's how I kind of view MailChimp is like, just if you start, have the intention that there's a reason you're paying, like, you can't get everything for free.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
as much as we would all love to get everything for free, or I don't even know what they charge at this point, but I know they have a free version, but, yeah, it didn't grow with me, let's put it that way. Years ago,
Mm.
was on it, and it didn't grow with my business. As soon as I set up automations, it glitched. I'm
Oh,
sure It's has been several years, so I would imagine that that's fixed at this point, but I kinda agree with you, and this isn't a MailChimp bashing session by
I
any means.
know. I know. I was
If
so
you're on
hesitant.
there,
I'm
you're
like,
okay, don't send me
yeah.
hate mail, like, it's really not, but you know, it's yeah, I think there's other options that will grow, and that's the goal is to grow and to set up all these segments and these automations, so then you have more time and you're nurturing that customer through the process of it, so okay, before we wrap this up, how can my audience reach the Busy Bell?
Yeah. So I'm on social media, pretty much all the platforms as Mary Lasky Bell. I don't know. Will they be able to see my name
Yep,
now?
it'll have the
Okay.
name. It'll be
um,
all over, I promise you. So it's in the
okay.
show notes too.
Yeah. So you can find me on social media. I always just say, send me a DM if you send me a friend request, because if you're in this industry, we get dozens or hundreds and it's hard to keep up. So just say, hey, heard you on Deanna's podcast or something. Um, and then my website is thebusybell.com. And Bell in that instance has an E at the end because it's a little play on words. So those would be the two best ways to reach out to me.
I love it. Mary, thank you so much for coming on and for talking with me. This has been absolutely wonderful. So I
Thank you. Yeah,
appreciate
I
your
had a great
time.
time. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate you too. Thanks. You asked great questions.
Oh, thank you. Well, you give great answers.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. We will see you next week.